All right, happy Wednesday, everybody. Rob Mazak here. I am a psychic medium, and tonight I will be talking about more metaphysical, spiritual topics or maybe topics. I had a conversation the other night with a somewhat of a student that I have. It wasn't a formal agreement, but I've kind of turned into the mentor role for this particular young lady. When she came to me, she was quite the mess, if you will. And since then, she has really come a long way in a very short time. I mean, it was very crazy to watch how she grew to being completely disconnected, if you will, or very scattered connection to the spiritual realm, if you will, to the other side, to her calling, to this massive channeler that gets the craziest, and not craziest because it's not crazy to a lot of people, but the most intriguing information. And what's really interesting about it is it's many of the things that she brings forth, she thinks are completely crazy and just off the wall. And when she describes them to me, it's like, well, I've had that same experiences, same information, maybe a little bit different verbiage, but the same. And so it's really cool to be a mentor to somebody, because it really helps people become validated, which is really, I think, what the whole secret of learning how to be connected to your calling, to the spiritual world, to your gifts, to information that you can't get from within but comes from without. You kind of get my point. It is one thing to get that information, but to never have it validated will put you into a place where you probably will never trust it and do it for your mission, your purpose, to help other people, to do it as a business like I do. Anyway, I wanted to digress a little bit on that. That's just kind of a little introduction. So the other day, I was driving back to my assigned camp out here on the border, and took the time to give her a call and to see what was going on and see how things were unfolding, new enlightenments, whatever. And we had a very, pretty long conversation. And it was really, really interesting. But she talked about something that makes perfect sense to me, but still it's been wandering around in my mind ever since we had that conversation. So I wanted to talk about it. I don't know if this will be a really long podcast, but who knows? I tend to go off on tangents and eventually get back to the original topic. And I don't really prepare a script, because when I do, it sounds kind of robotic and not unwelcoming, if you will. Because when I listen back at things that I read, kind of weird. So I like to do the unscripted type messages, if you haven't figured that out yet. So we were talking about something that, like I said, has really been stirring in my mind ever since. She was telling me she had gotten a download, which is her term for getting a message from the spiritual realm, from her guides, from whatever or whomever she's connecting to on the other side or outside of herself. Other people use the same term, but downloads is fine. It's sort of like in your computer when you find some information that's really cool and you want to save it, you can download it to your computer, and so that you have a download of information that you get to look over, read over, ponder on, whatever. Same kind of thing. So she was talking about, I'm going to summarize it, but she was talking about that we were coming up on a time when it's like the end times kind of prophecies that we all read about, where we are reaching that pinnacle of heightened consciousness, where many civilizations that we know of have reached that high technological age and level of consciousness, and then suddenly disappeared, like the Mayans and Atlantis and some of these other places and cultures that it was just simply vanished, just gone. So that's kind of a whole different topic, a different podcast. And I would agree with her, and I've said it many times, that we're kind of like on a trajectory to reach that high technology level and the opening of our consciousness, our awareness. And a lot of people are experiencing this. And she said, though, one of the things she said was that in this download she got, that we were going to be tempted by the dark side, if you will. We won't say the devil or anything, but those entities that are not necessarily for our good. Okay, we'll do that, right? Well, I guess we can use evil as a term just to make it easy. But we'd be tempted by, evil ones. And particularly in this download, she saw or received information where they would really take advantage of us as we are on our deathbed, so to speak, or dying or getting really old and wanted to hang on to life. As she put it, we would sell our soul to the devil, if you will. What she was seeing was a person being tricked, fooled, talked into something that they probably couldn't refuse or wouldn't refuse, because, who wants to die? Nobody does. Even those of us that are not really worried about the other side are not in a big hurry to die. I mean, life is wonderful. Every day that you wake up without a white chalk line around your body on the ground, it's a good day, right? Because you get to experience life still. But this person she was seeing on their deathbed, so to speak, was hooked up to some kind of machine, some kind of computer, some kind of technology, and connected through their brain, through their mind, through their brain, their spinal cord, various parts of their body through cords, and basically integrated into this technology. And the promise was that they could live life after life after life as long as they wanted to, while they were hooked up on this technology. The other promises were that they would be able to find their loved ones in every life. They're guaranteed that you would find those that are familiar with you in this life again, maybe in various forms, different versions of male and female, but still you would just have that knowing. You would know that you knew them and that you would find them again. And as she was talking about this, two things came to my mind. I had to stop her. I said, wait. What if we're already doing that? What if we have already been fooled and we are living in this quote unquote dreamlike state, being kept alive, if you will, by a machine, hooked up to some type of technology? And I said, and she just kind of stopped and goes, whoa, maybe we are. I said, furthermore, what did you just describe? Think about that. What did you just describe? You described what we normally call reincarnation, where we are cycled life after life after life, and we are guaranteed, for the most part, to find all those that are in our little soul group, if you will. You know, you might come back as the wife or the husband or the child or, you know, different sex, whatever. But you would eventually find those in your soul group. Think about that for a second. If we are remembering lives that we've lived before, which is something I do for others and myself, but, you know, it's one of the services I provide. It's part of the hypnosis as well. I can tell you from my experience, it's not offering proof, but my experience, there is many, many lives that we experience. Now, is that because we are simply been programmed to have experiences so that consciousness is supported in this life? Or do we really have other lives? Or are we just tapping into some cosmic library? I don't know, right? Whatever the case is, there's just too much evidence or too much experience in my life with clients and myself to believe that we don't have multiple lives over and over and over again. The unfortunate part is we don't get to remember them while we are living in the current life. Every now and then we get those snippets. We can have somebody like that's trained like myself to help you get there. But it's not very, it doesn't normally happen on its own. But how many of us have run into somebody and you're just like, I feel like I've known you my whole life. There's just something about you. And you just can't put your finger on it. What she was describing in this interesting scene she was seeing, this download, was just another way of explaining what we know as reincarnation. You wonder sometimes if we really are in that state. Because dreams, I'm sure we have all had them, I'm saying if you've had them, we've all had those dreams where everything just seems like as if we are somewhere else, living a life or having an experience that is as real as the one we're in right now. So what is so hard to fathom about living this life on this plane, in this reality, in a dreamlike state, in some kind of actual sleep, REM, rapid eye movement, dream, or something that's induced by a machine? It really doesn't seem like it's all that far of a stretch. I mean, we've all seen it too in movies. If you remember the first Matrix, where Neo was finally awoken, if you will, from his dreamlike state. And where did he find himself? Hooked up through the brain, through the spinal cord, throughout his body, to this large honeycomb of a machine. And he was living a complete life in a dreamlike state. And it turns out he was just simply hooked up to be used as like a human battery. So none of this is new. But what I find interesting is when somebody like my student presents this download that doesn't necessarily know these things or have these experiences, and then gets a download that completely explains everything that we just talked about. The Matrix movie, reincarnation. Well, she knows about reincarnation, but she never correlated it. That's what I think makes things more valid, is when somebody is getting information from wherever, the other side, and they don't even have any, what's the right word, anything that influences that thinking or that information. And then when you show them and tell them and challenge them, and they look and they go, "Oh my gosh, so this might just be real. It just might." And I believe we do. I mean, living. Let me go back on that. I do believe that this could be very well a dream-like state. Let's think about our mind and talk about how it experiences our world. Let's think about that. So, whether this world that's around us is real or not, everything that we experience with this audio, visual, sensory world of ours is correlated and put together by our mind, who I should say, I'm personifying your mind, but your mind puts this together through the collection of the senses, the five senses, if you will, or the six senses, or whatever you want to claim. I mean, think about that for a second. Our mind is in the dark, completely in a dark space. It relies on our sight, our hearing, our smell, our touch, our feel, that sixth sense, all that stuff all gets compiled into this computer-like network of neurons and billions of connections, and it creates this movie that we live in. And it's just, it kind of boggles your mind that everything that we are experiencing is being processed by our, what is it, 8 pounds of brain, something like that, that sits inside of a dark skull sealed away. Yet it still creates this wonderful experience of life that we have. You know, when you really think about that, it becomes very hard to imagine that this world just lives inside of our skull. It is crazy. And you wonder how it happens for those that are blind or those that are deaf. But, you know, the brain is very, very interesting. I'll call it a device, piece of anatomy that is so creative and so connected and so powerful that they haven't yet that I know of. I don't know everything. They have not been able to create a computer that could keep up and compute with everything that our mind can do. I mean, there's been lots and lots of experiments where they've proven or shown that when people are making decisions, the brain many times makes a decision before the conscious mind is even aware of it, you know, as long or as early as 7 seconds before it happens. We also find that much of what, or at least science has found, that much of what we think is our reality or what we're living or experiencing in this world is filled in with the experiences that we've had in the past. Because our mind might run into something new, and it has to very quickly and cleverly put together something that makes sense. For example, if you look at the old analog clock, and if you've never seen that before, and you look at it for the first time, it seems like that second hand takes about 10 seconds to click over to the next second, when all reality it happens in a second. It's because the mind hasn't figured out, or maybe not has seen that experience, and is trying to put it together as fast as it can so that it can make sense for you based on your experiences, your culture, your raising up, your parents, all these things, right? And so, once again, dreamlike state. Think about dreams. we are having dreams without our conscious mind involved at all. And so, of course, our subconscious mind, unconscious mind is about 90 to 95% of our activity anyway. But a dream is just as real as this one. And once again, it's happening where? Inside our skull, being processed by our brain. Now, I know the mind and the brain are not necessarily the same. We could argue that back and forth. Imagine, though, that you were offered something like that. A way to, quote unquote, live forever. Never lose your memories. Never lose your opportunities to have this life, that crazy life, a bad life. Be the bad guy, be the good guy, be the woman, be the man, be a husband, a wife, a child, an animal, and all simply experienced through your mind. Without, I should say, not without, but with all the safety that you can ever imagine, knowing that you were going into this and there's no way that you could be harmed any more than you might already be when you went into this, like the guy laying on the deathbed, hooked up to wires, all that stuff. But all those lives that you're living, every time you go into those, you know full well that when that life ends, it's just the beginning of another one. And wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be cool if that's what we're doing? I mean, what if we are on the other side? What if we're all dead? And we're all simply in the dying process. And time has stretched out farther than we can imagine time ever stretching based on our, human time. Because they say that the brain takes, 8 to 10 minutes to die, to completely die. What if that 8 to 10 minutes could buy you an entire life experience in the quote-unquote dreamlike world? And we might also simply be dead. Right? We may be stuck somewhere in the lower astral realm or one of the other realms and have not crossed over. I mean, there's movie after movie after movie about that. And I've also worked with a lot of entities for clients, connecting with them, with their loved ones that have passed on or died. Let me say that again. Only to find that they're stuck between this life, or their former life rather, and crossing over back to God or the source or wherever it is that they choose what happens next. Some of them realize that they're actually not living, and others don't. It is crazy to understand. Anyway, let's get back to the original topic, right? What if you were offered that opportunity and you were dying and you had an opportunity or a chance to experience anything you've ever wanted, be able to affect anything you wanted in any of those lives, live it rich, live it poor, live it dangerous, live it nice, any and every experience you've ever wanted and ever could have, would you do it? I know I probably would really consider doing that, right? And in a lot of ways, I think I may have. Because I personally have remembered many of my past lives where I've supposedly come from, things that I've done, people that I've been with in other lives that are in this one. It's just, I don't know, it's hard to make this stuff up, even though our mind really is making everything up. I'm not sure if we're just simply some program that is given these experiences so that they can see where it takes us. I mean, there's been a lot of movies that talk about these things, like The Island, for example, where they're trying to grow clones for parts for celebrities, the people that can afford it. When they originally tried it but the clones weren't surviving. What they figured out that they had to do was to create memories of at least their past life, their current life, and memories that build in the consciousness that help consciousness survive. And consciousness is really just self-awareness, but that's just it. If you have no experience to base your life on, your mind cannot fill in the gaps. It cannot create and survive in this world or whatever this reality that we have is. So if you haven't figured it out, movies are really telling us all kinds of things. But that's, once again, another topic, another podcast. I'll ask the question again, would you do it? Would you do it? I think I would. I think I probably have. None of us will really know until we die in this life and we're able to look back and figure out what it is that this place is, what our next journey is, and realize that, or what it is, or realize what it is. I'm kind of excited to see that validated for me. I'm not in a hurry to die, don't get me wrong. But I am excited to finally one day be able to figure out what this life is that I am living. Am I in a dream state? Am I some virtual character in a simulation? Am I some half-breed from alien pollination from other planets? Yeah, I mean, are we living, is this a flat Earth, a round Earth? All that stuff would be really cool to learn. And I believe that we can experience all of that. And I believe we are. And back to her original download. In that download, the promise was that you would be able to do anything you wanted in those lives. Absolutely anything and everything. Sort of like magic. And I know that that's possible, even in this life. As I know it, as we know it, it is possible to affect everything in our lives. We just don't always believe it. All right, I think I've rambled enough, but I think you get my point. I believe that we are living in a dreamlike state, maybe a dream within a dream, maybe a 75-year dream every time we go to sleep. We wake up. When we die, we wake up, just like Alan Watts says. I don't know. But I challenge you to really think about these things. What is this life really? What really is this life? Are we just some figment of somebody's imagination? Are we a real person? Does everything around us actually exist? Lots of questions, isn't it? Anyway, I'd love to hear what you have to say about these kind of things, or these topics. I guess it's not just one topic. You can reach out to me through my website at lifebymazak.com, lifebymazak.com. And there's a contact page there. I would love to hear from you, hear what your thoughts are. Love to talk about it. I will talk with you guys again, for sure. Talk to you soon.